If you have already saved your first $10,000 as a normal 9 to 5 worker, you know exactly how good that feels. It is like a massive weight finally came off your shoulders. For the first time in your working life, you actually had a small safety net between yourself and absolute financial ruin. You proved that you have the discipline to beat the system, control your cash flow, and keep your money instead of immediately blowing it on consumer culture. But here is the cold, hard truth. $10,000 is still mostly defense. It keeps you safe from a bad engine noise, a sudden medical bill, or a minor corporate downsizing scare, but it doesn't actually change your day-to-day reality. You still have to wake up on Monday morning driven entirely by the necessity of that next bi-weekly paycheck. You are safe, but you don't have any real leverage. Now, imagine taking that exact same discipline and pushing your balance past $50,000. This is the exact milestone where the rules of the game completely flip. $50,000 isn't just 5 times larger than 10 grand on a screen. It is a completely different level of power. This is the precise line where survival mode ends and building mode begins. It is where the constant money stress that has quietly hummed in the back of your brain for years drops to absolute zero. Today, we are looking at the raw reality of what actually changes when you hit $50,000 saved on a normal corporate salary. We are going to break down the psychological shift, the massive career leverage you suddenly unlock at work, and the exact math that starts happening when your money finally learns how to work for you. More importantly, I'm giving you the step-by-step cash flow playbooks by salary tier to get you to this threshold in 2026 without requiring you to quit your day job or live on ramen noodles. If you are ready to stop just surviving the grind and start systematically buying back your freedom, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us look at the numbers. Let us be completely honest about the road from $10,000 to $50,000. It feels like an absolute, never-ending slog. Statistically, this is where the vast majority of disciplined 9 to 5 workers get completely stuck. Think about why. When you are starting from zero, you are driven by pure survival panic. You save because you are terrified of being ruined or forced into toxic debt. That fear forces you to lock down your spending. But once you hit $10,000, that acute panic disappears. You can breathe. And the moment that panic fades, fatigue sets in. Suddenly, the $50,000 target feels miles away. If you are saving $500 a month out of a normal salary, you quickly realize it is going to take you years of consistent execution to get there. And when a goal feels that distant, your brain naturally starts looking for excuses to quit and get a quick dopamine hit. This is exactly where the lifestyle trap catches you off guard. You work hard, you put in the hours, and eventually you get a raise or a promotion. Your salary bumps up from $45,000 to $60,000 or from $70,000 to $85,000. In a rational world, that extra cash should go straight into your savings, blowing past the $50,000 mark in record time. But in the real world of 2026, the cost of simply existing has been engineered to swallow your progress whole. Look at the baseline data right now. The national average rent for a standard apartment has climbed into a brutal monthly range of $1,144 to $1,843. If you decide to celebrate your new job title by moving into a slightly nicer place, that single decision can instantly wipe out an extra $500 of your monthly margin. Then you look at the car trap. The average monthly payment for a new vehicle is sitting at a staggering $767 to $773 per month. When you add insurance, maintenance, and fuel, a single depreciating metal box in the office parking lot is burning over $1,000 of active cash flow every single month. What happens? Your lifestyle seamlessly expands to match your new income level. You buy nicer clothes, upgrade your tech, start dining out at premium restaurants on Friday night to reward yourself for surviving a brutal work week and tell yourself the classic lie, I'll start saving next month. But next month never comes. If you do not have a strict playbook to protect your margin, you will find yourself earning $90,000 a year, but still staring at the exact same $10,000 balance you had 3 years ago. You are just running faster on a highly decorated hamster wheel. When you finally break through the noise and force your balance sheet past the $50,000 milestone, the entire atmosphere of your life changes. Let us look at the psychological shift inside your brain. When you have zero savings or even just a small buffer, your baseline anxiety is constantly running hot. Every email from HR, every unexpected meeting invite from your boss, and every rumor of restructuring triggers an immediate spike of fear. Why? Because you know you are exactly one missed paycheck away from catastrophe. You are forced to tolerate toxic corporate cultures, smile at bad managers, and bite your tongue because you quite literally cannot afford to lose your job. But the exact moment you have $50,000 in liquid insured cash sitting quietly in a separate account, those heavy invisible handcuffs completely melt away. Think about the math. For a normal 9-to-5 worker with a controlled budget, $50,000 represents roughly 6 to 12 full months of non-negotiable living expenses completely covered. Have you ever thought about what that would actually feel like? If your company announces a sudden round of layoffs, or if your manager makes your daily environment entirely unbearable, it is no longer an existential crisis. It is simply a professional transition period. You have a massive cushion that ensures your housing is safe, your bills are paid, and your life is completely protected for an entire year without earning a single dime of active income. This financial security completely changes your posture in corporate rooms. You carry yourself differently. You walk into the office from a position of strength, not desperate fear. When you do not desperately need a job to survive the next 30 days, you suddenly unlock immense personal leverage. You speak with more authority during meetings because you aren't terrified of making a mistake. You can firmly and politely set boundaries against uncompensated overwork. Ironically, this exact shift usually makes you far more successful in your career. When you speak from a position of security, executives perceive you as more competent and high value. You gain the breathing room to negotiate for higher pay, apply for bolder roles, or even look your boss in the eye and say, "No, that timeline is not realistic." You stop obsessing over every single micro expense or feeling guilty for spending $20 on a dinner out because you know your foundational core is completely locked down. That mental clarity is worth vastly more than the physical $50,000 itself. Now let us look directly at the raw operational power of $50,000 on your actual financial statement. This is where the math becomes incredibly exciting because $50,000 is the precise threshold where compounding interest transitions from a theoretical concept into a visible force in your daily life. When your net worth is sitting at zero, your money is completely lazy. Every single dollar has to be violently scraped out of your physical active labor, trading your limited hours and energy for a linear wage. But when you accumulate $50,000 and deploy it into an insured, high-yield infrastructure, earning a competitive market rate of 4 to 5%, the math shifts instantly. In absolute silence, without you having to trade an extra hour of your life, answer a single late-night Slack message, or sit through a performance review, your $50,000 base generates roughly $2,000 to $2,500 of completely passive income over the course of a single year. Think about that reality. $2,500 a year breaks down to roughly $200 every single month dropped into your account completely free. That is your money acting as a second earner in your household. That is money that grew while you were sleeping, while you were sitting in a cubicle, or while you were spending time with your family. That cash can completely offset your utility bills, cover your monthly groceries, or immediately be funneled right back into the engine to accelerate your growth. But it gets even better if you invest a portion of that capital into long-term wealth assets like low-cost diversified index funds. If we look at the historical long-term average return of the S&P 500, which hovers around 10% over extended timelines, the velocity of your wealth changes dramatically. If you leave a $50,000 base untouched in a standard index fund, even if you never contribute another single dollar out of your paycheck for the rest of your life, that money can realistically compound and grow into a staggering $80,000 to $85,000 over the course of just 5 years. Think about that speed. Your money just generated over $30,000 of wealth entirely on its own momentum. That is the kinetic energy of wealth building. When you have a $50,000 engine running, your path to the iconic $100,000 milestone is no longer a brutal uphill mountain climb. The first $50,000 is almost entirely fueled by your manual savings discipline. The next $50,000 is heavily accelerated by the sheer mathematical momentum of the money itself. You are no longer pushing the boulder up the hill. The boulder has finally cleared the peak and is starting to roll down the other side, picking up speed every single day. So how do we actually execute this playbook and cross the $50,000 finish line? We cannot apply a broad, generalized strategy to everyone because a worker earning $35,000 faces completely different budget constraints than a professional earning $95,000. To maximize your efficiency, we must break your roadmap down into 3 clear, math-backed corporate tracks based on exactly where your career stands right now. If your current job places you inside the Tier 1 zone, pushing toward $50,000 is going to feel like trying to run a marathon underwater. Let's look at the absolute math. At this income level, your standard survival costs chew up nearly every single dollar that enters your account. You cannot simply budget your way to 50 grand when your baseline margin is only a couple $100 a month. At this stage, you have to play a dual strategy game. First, you must accept that your path to $50,000 will rely heavily on micro milestones. If you can only automate $50 or $100 a month right now, do it without shame. That keeps your discipline muscle from freezing up. But your second and most critical priority is aggressively forcing your career into the next bracket. You are currently the capped asset on your own balance sheet. In today's landscape, corporate loyalty is a losing financial strategy. If your current employer hasn't given you a clear vertical path to a higher wage, your evening hours must be treated as a second shift for skill acquisition. Acquire the specialized certifications, master the operational tools, or build the portfolio required to jump ship. Your goal here isn't to look rich, it's to systematically trade up your employment contract every 2 years until your base salary expands by $20,000 or $30,000. You must build the engine size first so you actually have the horsepower to stack capital later. Once your career scales into the Tier 2 zone, the baseline focus shifts from raw career survival to optimization of your automated systems. You finally have a real, measurable breathing margin at the end of every single month, but this zone is a dangerous trap if left unmanaged. To lock in your $50,000 target from this position, you must prevent your cash flow from floating aimlessly in your primary accounts. The strategy here is immediate diversion. You need to map out your exact essential baseline overhead and set up strict parameters. The absolute moment your direct deposit clears, a minimum of 15 to 25% of your liquid take-home pay must be instantly swept out of your daily checking layout before you ever have the chance to touch it. This money needs to clear out into an insulated holding system entirely separated from your transactional cards. If your corporate infrastructure offers retirement matching plans, you capture the exact amount needed to maximize that employer baseline contribution, no more, no less, ensuring your personal cash flow remains liquid enough to feed your core 50K milestone goal. When your contract scales into the Tier 3 bracket, hitting $50,000 becomes a pure game of mechanical efficiency and aggressive margin capture. At this level, your income is fully capable of launching you past this milestone in record time, but only if you actively resist the temptation to scale your lifestyle alongside your corporate title. Your playbook is anchored by strict operational limits. You cap your absolute housing footprint at 35% of your take-home pay, freeze your vehicle costs to single-digit percentages, and systematically deploy your heavy income surplus. At this tier, you should be cleanly and quietly routing $1,500 to $2,500 every single month straight into your core, high-yielding capital assets. Run a simple monthly data check on your net worth to audit your speed, ensure your overhead remains locked down, and let your high income act as a high-velocity funding mechanism for your balance sheet. As you execute these playbooks and watch your balance climb through the $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000 markers, you must remain hyper-aware of the common psychological traps engineered to derail your progress. The closer you get to the goal, the more tempting these traps become. The first and most dangerous trap is the lifestyle creep after small wins. When a 9-to-5 worker successfully saves their first $25,000 or $30,000, human psychology tricks them into feeling a false sense of elite status. They look at their growing account balance, experience a massive burst of dopamine, and immediately reward themselves by purchasing a luxury vacation, upgrading to an expensive car lease, or completely replacing their wardrobe with designer goods. They systematically liquidate their momentum just as it is beginning to form. You must resist this urge. Treat your first $30,000 not as spending money, but as an unfinished, vulnerable fortress that requires immediate reinforcement until it reaches its full $50,000 target. The second trap is leaving your core capital reserves to rot inside traditional low-interest checking and savings accounts at big chain commercial banks. Leaving your money sitting in an account yielding a terrible 0.1% interest rate is literally handing your purchasing power over to inflation. Move your capital to an insured, high-yield infrastructure that actually preserves the density of your hard-earned labor. Finally, beware of analysis paralysis. Many workers reach $30,000 and completely stop their savings momentum because they are terrified of making a mistake in the stock market. They spend months reading conflicting financial articles, watching speculative trading videos, and trying to perfectly time the market while they sit on the sidelines overthinking their cash flow sits idle. Keep it simple. Automate your cash flow into insured high-yield savings accounts or low-cost diversified index funds that track the total market. Let the mechanical consistency of the system do the heavy lifting while you focus entirely on your career execution. Ultimately, building a $50,000 cash reserve from absolute scratch on a regular corporate paycheck is a purely mechanical, orderly process of maximizing your active margin, automating your cash flow speed, and fighting back against consumer culture. It is definitive, undeniable, math-backed proof that you possess the discipline to beat the system while keeping your 9-to-5 job perfectly secure. $50,000 isn't just a random collection of digital numbers inside a banking application. It is your permanent exit ticket from survival mode and your official entry ticket into true wealth building. If you are completely ready to stop guessing with your personal finances and start using a clear mathematical blueprint to purchase your permanent freedom, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to 9-to-5 Chimp right now. We break down the real numbers, the raw metrics, and the practical corporate cash flow playbooks every single week so you can build massive quiet wealth behind closed doors. Now, let us open up the community ledger right here in the comment section below. I want to run a live compliance audit across our audience to see exactly where everyone stands on their wealth journey. Drop a comment right now with 3 quick, clear numbers. First, your current salary tier track. Are you navigating Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3? Second, your true net monthly take-home pay after all taxes and deductions. And third, your current target monthly investment and savings speed. How much are you actively automating away from your checking card every single month? Are your local housing markets making it tough to find a margin, or have you already locked in your automation engine to build quiet wealth behind closed doors? Let us analyze the real data, support each other, and audit the numbers together in the comments down below. Once you have posted your metrics, make sure to click on the next video appearing on your screen right now to keep optimizing your personal financial engine. In the next Master Breakdown, we are going to look at the ultimate milestone, the legendary $100,000 milestone, and show you how the velocity completely explodes once you cross that threshold. Protect your cash flow, stay highly disciplined, and I will see you in the next Master Breakdown.